Straight ahead, heating up, the Texas Senate race between Ted Cruz and Collin Allred grows more competitive, according to a respected firm that predicts national elections. Why Republicans remain confident. A purple district in Texas. One of the tightest political contests in all of the Lone Star State is being fought in our backyard. The two candidates debate over school choice and border security. And contest at the Capitol. We speak with a conservative lawmaker who just changed his choice for Speaker of the Texas House. Why his vote could impact the race. Good morning. Get your fix for Texas politics. I'm Jack Fink. Eye on Politics starts now. Hello, and hope you're having a great weekend, and welcome to Eye on Politics. Early voting in Texas starts 2 weeks from tomorrow, and a respected firm that predicts national elections says the Texas Senate race between Republican incumbent Ted Cruz and Democratic Congressman Collin Allred has grown more competitive. The Cook Political Report moved the race from likely R down to lean R. The Real Clear Politics average of 4 recent polls shows Cruz leads by about 4.8 percentage points. The rating change from Cook comes about a week after National Senate Democrats announced they are injecting millions of dollars into Allred's campaign for TV ads. We asked Republican and former Texas Railroad Commissioner Michael Williams and Democratic political consultant and Grand Prairie Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Junior Izanu about the state of the race.
We're not even close to being a swing state or close to being a battleground state. We're red. We're solidly red. And that's not going to change in this election cycle.
Can you get the voters out? Can you energize the base and then get those moderate swing voters that may not like Trump, may not like Cruz, and want to look at someone else?
The father of a Marine veteran who was held captive in Russia for 3 years has endorsed Congressman Allred in the Senate race. Joey Reed tells me it was an easy decision for him to make.
It's our direct interaction that we had with Ted Cruz and his failure to assist us in any way when everyone else in the Congress did.
As for Cruz,
especially
he's been
all the
endorsed by the
congressmen from
Democratic
Texas
Harris
from both
County
parties.
District Attorney. After their first attempt to get help from Senator Cruz, Joey Reed of Granbury told me their representative tried again with the hope of gaining their son Trevor's release from Russia. He was wrongfully detained in Moscow in 2019 until he was released in 2022. Cruz's staff explained to Reed why the senator didn't help.
Their explanation was that Vladimir Putin hated him so much that if he helped us, that it would hurt our case. And I should say, we've spoken to Ted Cruz once. He called us the day my son was released and congratulated us and asked if there was anything that we needed. And we told him directly that what we needed was his help 3 years earlier.
And when you told Senator Cruz that, what was his reaction?
He reiterated the same excuse that his staff had given us 3 years earlier.
And so you weren't satisfied with his explanation?
Absolutely not.
At the time, the Dallas Morning News reported Cruz's office told the paper that the senator was repeatedly advised by the Biden administration that his public involvement would be counterproductive because of his vocal opposition to a Russian pipeline. In a statement, the Cruz campaign told CBS News Texas Senator Cruz was incredibly relieved for Trevor and his family when he was released from wrongful detention in Russia and safely returned home. The campaign also said Cruz has been instrumental in bringing home American hostages from Lebanon and Venezuela.
Collin Allred was right there working with both parties.
Reed recorded an ad for Allred and said, as a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, was supportive.
We need more people like Collin Allred who will work with the other side to come to a compromise and something that, both sides can live with.
As for his son, Trevor, Reed said his son is now focused on his studies.
Well, interestingly enough, he's currently majoring in foreign affairs. I think he would like to work for the State Department eventually. He's doing well, and we're just so proud of him.
As for Cruz, he's been endorsed by the Democratic Harris County District Attorney Kim Ogg, along with the Texas Association of Business and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
If you believe in economic growth and job creation and improving the lives of the American people. And on that basis, this is a clear-cut, easy decision.
Cruz launched his bus tour on Friday, which will continue throughout the state until Election Day. Now to the presidential race and our weekly look tracking the crucial 7 battleground states. And the race continues to grow tighter from last week. In Arizona, former President Donald Trump's lead over Vice President Kamala Harris has gone down a little bit from last week to 1.7 percentage points. This remains the highest margin in the battleground states. The vice president's lead over Trump has dropped a little from last week to 1.1 percentage points in Nevada. In Georgia, Trump's lead has stayed the same this week at 1.5 percentage points. In Wisconsin, Harris's lead over Trump is 0.8 percentage points, which is a little lower than last week. In Michigan, Harris's lead has dropped the most from last week to now 0.7 percentage points. Pennsylvania is once again a tie after Harris led by nearly 1 percentage point last week. And in North Carolina, Trump's lead has fallen back from last week to 0.6 percentage points. The latest numbers come after the first and only vice presidential debate on CBS News between the Democratic nominee, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, and the Republican nominee, J.D. Vance. Many people thought it was a civil and substantive debate. The two debated the economy.
She's been the vice president for 3.5 years. She had the opportunity to enact all of these great policies, and what she's actually done instead is drive the cost of food higher by 25%, drive the cost of housing higher by about 60%.
Kamala Harris's day one was Donald Trump's failure on COVID that led to the collapse of our economy. We were already before COVID in a manufacturing recession, but 10 million people out of work, largest percentage since the Great Depression.
Now to an important deadline you need to know about, especially if you plan on casting your ballot either during early voting or this election day. The deadline to register is tomorrow, October 7th. If you want to check your status, you can go to do so by going to the state's website, votetexas.gov. Dallas County says it's offering a drive-through voter registration event from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. Monday at its offices at 1460 Round Table Drive in Dallas. Coming up, a purple district in Texas. I'm listening to the candidates in an intriguing race that's in our backyard when Eye on Politics returns. Welcome back to Eye on Politics. Now to one of the few purple districts in Texas that's up for grabs on Election Day. We're talking about Texas House District 70, an odd-shaped district that consists of mostly Plano, but also small portions of Allen, Richardson, and far north Dallas, all of it in Collin County. It's purple because of how the district voted 2 years ago and how it was drawn as well. Beto O'Rourke beat Governor Abbott here 53 to 46% in 2022. Democrats also won for Lieutenant Governor and Attorney General, but Republican Comptroller Glenn Hagar won here over his Democratic challenger ever so slightly. In July, Governor Greg Abbott told me this is one of 3 House seats he believes Republicans will flip.
That's a pickup for Republicans.
You think that
Republicans are going to pick up 3. They're going to pick up Plaza, they're going to pick up one in the Corpus area, and pick up McLaughlin, which is the Republican nominee for Tracy King.
I recently sat down with Democratic State Representative Mihaela Plisa and Republican businessman Steve Kennard to discuss the district and key issues.
Chicken fried steak.
Welcome to Texas House District 70, where Preston and Frankfort Road in far north Dallas is one of the busier intersections in an area that features mostly bedroom communities. More than 185,000 people live here, and the district is 54% minority. Democratic incumbent Mihaela Plisa tells me she knows how to be effective for her community.
I was named Freshman of the Year by my colleagues because I passed a budget rider that increased ECI, which is benefits for children with disabilities, $6.2 million, the first increase in 10 years. I worked with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle.
Republican challenger Steve Kennard tells me he's focused on running a campaign for the grassroots.
I think our current representative has strayed far from that path and is representing more of an extremist wing of the Democrat Party. I think it's out of touch with the values of Collin County, and I'm hearing that every day on the campaign trail.
Governor Abbott told me at the end of July he thinks you're going to flip this seat Republican. What do you say to that?
We are going to flip this seat, and I'll highlight I'm proud to have Governor Greg Abbott's endorsement.
As you know, Governor Abbott told me back at the end of July that he thinks this district is going to be flipped Republican. What do you say to that?
I say, bring it. Look, Beto outperformed Governor Abbott in this district. Beto also outperformed Ted Cruz in this district, two people that have endorsed my opponent. I'm endorsed by the Dallas Police Association, our teachers, and I'm proud to announce to you today that I have the endorsement of Collin Allred, who knows a couple of things about flipping competitive seats.
300, so...
Both Plisa and Kennard say public education is among their top priorities. They differ on school choice, taxpayer-funded education savings accounts or vouchers so students can attend private schools.
This is going to be the #1 fight going into the legislature in the 89th session. I have stood strongly on a bipartisan, with a bipartisan coalition of lawmakers to defeat the voucher scam last session, and that is why Governor Abbott is targeting me. This is taxpayer money going to a private school that we have no idea what they're teaching. We don't know what the credentials are. There's no accountability to the state. This is taxpayers' money with no accountability.
When we think about accountability, the only real accountability is when you have to respond to an end user, to a customer that has the option to choose something else. But here's the fundamental question we have to ask ourselves. Are you best served by a government monopoly or by a marketplace of ideas? There is no other area of society where people willingly disenfranchise themselves by saying, I forsake all other options. It just doesn't make sense. Here's the reality. In the last session, we had a bill that would have significantly increased funding. My opponent voted against it because they prioritized government control over the families. We can do all of it.
Both Kennard and Plisa say the legislature should increase funding to school districts, including providing extra money so teachers can get a pay raise.
Fantastic.
When it comes to border security, the top concern among Texans, according to the polls, federal records show there have been more than 8.2 million apprehensions at the southern border between February 2021, the first full month President Biden was in office, and the end of August this year. The state has spent more than $11 billion since 2021 to prevent illegal immigration. Does the state still need to spend the billions of dollars during the 2-year biennium to protect the southern border?
Look, there was a bipartisan bill in Congress where these decisions should be made that would have brought federal money down to our Texas-Mexico border. And all the people that have endorsed my opponent voted against it. So is the state money well spent or not? I mean, not when we're underfunding our schools, not when we don't have access to health care for seniors, for children, not when we have kids going without food during the school day. And so, you know, there have been some things that I think that we should be doing. I think that we should continue our investment in anti-drone technology and surveillance drones.
We need to continue to apply pressure at the federal level to reimburse the state of Texas for this unacceptable expense that we are having to incur due to the catastrophic failure of the federal government. The problem should have never been there in the first place. And while, of course, we would like to make strategic investments in other areas, such as reducing the property tax burden, which is something I'm very focused on, our first priority has to be security, and we have to make those investments. So I do support it.
Kennard criticized Plisa's votes against increasing penalties on human smugglers and those who operate stash houses in Texas, and for establishing a state border force. Plisa said the state could never figure out a cost for the border force and that she voted the same way as Democratic lawmakers who represent the communities along the southern border. One other top priority for Plisa is in vitro fertilization, or IVF. She said she worries Republicans like Kennard will try to take those protections away. But Kennard said he has never supported any restrictions on IVF and that he will not do that. We've placed the full interviews of both Kennard and Plisa on our website, cbsnewstexas.com. Scroll down to the Eye on Politics section and look for Jack Fink interviews. Now to the contest at the Capitol and an update on the race for Texas House Speaker. Dade Phelan, current Speaker, is facing a challenge from Republican Representative David Cook of Mansfield, Cook released a list of 48 House Republicans who are supporting his bid after he was chosen to challenge Phelan over 4 others in the GOP who had also announced their candidacy. Democratic Representative Ana Maria Ramos of Dallas has also said she is running, but it's unlikely she will win because Republicans outnumber Democrats in the House 86 to 63. We spoke with conservative Representative Matt Shaheen of Plano, who recently switched his choice for Speaker from Phelan to Cook.
Well, let me first say that, under Dave Phelan's leadership, we have done some exceptional things over the last 2 sessions, large tax cuts, education reform. We've done some significant accomplishment. We've had some significant accomplishments. My concern has been just really the appalling level of influence given to the casinos and their efforts to legalize gambling in the state of Texas. You're literally talking millions of dollars, close to 40 lobbyists that have descended on the Capitol, and they just have an unfair influence on the Texas House. And it's important people understand that Texas House is not for sale.
And what do you mean as far as influence from the gambling lobby, and how does that pertain to the Speaker's race?
Well, if you look at the campaign finance reports, the amount of campaign contributions from the casinos it's extraordinary. I mean, it's obscene. It's literally millions of dollars. There was a casino bill that came to the floor of the House. It was clear that it didn't have the support. It wasted a whole day last session. And so as I was looking over the past couple of months, I saw that it wasn't going to get any better. In fact, if anything, their influence was going to get worse in the Texas House. And look, we got to be clear, the consequences of casinos are horrific for the state of Texas. Crime skyrockets, domestic abuse increases, sex trafficking increases.
And so how do you think this is all going to play out? I mean, if he has 48 Republicans in his camp, the number because there's a 3/5 majority for the House Republican caucus requirement. Is that right?
Yeah.
So that's not that many more. 52 is the more than, or 52 would be more than 60%.
Yeah, and so I think David Cook gets there. There's a lot of time between now and the caucus vote, and the things change. But the way things are trending, is very much towards David Cook's advantage. I just think he would be a great speaker. So you see a lot of members that are looking very closely that may not be on that list of 48, but are seriously considering him. So I think when you have the time right after the November election, I think that number grows even further. And the caucus event where all the Republican House members get together and vote on who we would like to see as Speaker, I think you see the number grow significantly by then.
The other magic number is 76.
Yeah.
Because you have 150 House members, 76 are needed to really on the first day of the House, first day of the legislature of the session. That's when House members officially decide.
That's right.
So I'm wondering, do you think that is a way still possible for Speaker Phelan to still win next session?
I don't think so. I think once that caucus vote is held, members are committed to then going to the floor and vote representing the desires of the caucus. I don't see a way for Representative Phelan to get the required 52 votes in the caucus. I just don't see that happening at all. So David Cook will most likely prevail into the caucus, and then the vast majority, if not all, the Republican House members will vote for him in January.
House members will vote for a speaker on the first day of the new legislative session in January. Coming up, a government report on how many non-citizens in the country have committed crimes when Eye on Politics comes right back. A recent government report released by Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez shows there are hundreds of thousands of people who entered the U.S. illegally who are convicted or accused of crimes. Sarah Jenkins has this week's brief.
A letter from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement sent to Texas Republican Representative Tony Gonzalez revealed the agency is tracking hundreds of thousands of immigrants with criminal records that have been released into U.S. communities. Data from ICE shows that as of July 2024, there are nearly 650,000 non-citizens with criminal histories listed as non-detained. Of those, Over 425,000 have criminal convictions and over 220,000 have pending charges. More than 13,000 have been convicted of homicide and almost 16,000 were convicted of sexual assault. Official figures indicate many of them have been in the U.S. for years, possibly decades. In August 2016, there were over 360,000 convicted criminals in the agency's non-detained docket. In June 2021, there were more than 400,000 convicted criminals in ICE's non-detained docket. According to ICE, some of those categorized as non-detained are in federal or state custody, serving criminal sentences, and are likely to be arrested by the agency. The letter also stated that most non-citizens convicted of homicide are typically not eligible for release from ICE custody.
And thank you, Sarah. That's all for Eye on Politics this week. I'm Jack Fink. I am listening, and we are listening at CBS News Texas. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again next week. And from all of us here, have a great weekend.